Welcome to another Dow Jones update. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about the current move that's going on after we have hit the new all-time high and why it's behaving the way that it is. So as it appears, it hit an all-time high, but it's sort of just been hanging around that all-time high. Now, why is that? So if you saw my last video, I did say that we are having a target here set at 37,000, mainly because it's the same length as wave A down here. Okay, now this is a type 2 expanded zigzag. So therefore, that means that we need to see a C wave. Now, just for those of you that don't know what an expanded type 2 zigzag is, it basically, it's when the B wave in brackets here ends above the end of wave A. Okay, so if you learn AriasWave, you understand all these ins and outs of these waves that occur. But just so you understand what it is, that's why I'm explaining it. So normally in a zigzag, you'd see like something like this, right? You'd have your A, your B, and your C, right? So this particular move here, that's this particular move here. This move here is basically everything that you've seen since the A wave, right? So normally you'd see like a pullback like this, where the B wave ends down here. But when you have an expanded type 2 zigzag, right? Basically, it's basically dragging it out like this, and then the C wave essentially has to come later like this, right? You get me? So AriasWave basically gives you the roadmap to every single wave that occurs within a zigzag. In this case, within a B wave, this B wave in brackets, right? So that's what we're seeing here, okay? The B wave, which is this part here, instead of being like this, it's gone like that. Now, there are many reasons for this, but you could just look at it like it's like there's a lot of strength in the market, but there's also a lot of weakness in the market, because if you understand what an ending diagonal is, you'll understand that it's also an impulsive move by nature. However, being an ending diagonal per se means that it's a weak move. So it's kind of like a hybrid between an impulsive move and a weak move. And that's because it is the final move of the entire sequence of waves. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about the whole move, I've linked a video below that explains that. So let's just go back to what I was saying. Now, why is the market hanging around the break of the D wave, right? So the best way that I can explain this is because this market is losing a lot of strength, but it still has to create that C wave. Now, at this point in time, there's probably a lot going into this market to try and keep it afloat. And if you look at the slope of this market, you can see that after the A wave occurred, which was the sharpest wave, the whole move started to slope. And it's what I use based on AriasWave terms. I use what is the A and E trend line when it comes to expanded type 2 zigzags, right? So normally in a normal zigzag, you wouldn't be able to do this type of channeling, but because it's an expanded type 2 zigzag, you can use the A and the E wave as a form of channeling. And you can see quite clearly that price action does interact with this, you know, it respects it quite well. All right, you can see it all the way through. Now, this I did create AriasWave, and it's not something that you're going to be able to find anywhere. So if you want to learn that, then well, there are ways to learn it. So let's just go and zoom in to this area up the top here. I'm just going to go to the 1 hour chart. Okay, now what is causing this move to behave the way that it's behaving? Now, normally in an impulsive move, you'd see a wave 1 and a 2. But in this case, what I'm seeing is wave 1 is very small, right? So just have a look here. Wave 1 ended here, like this. Now, potentially it could have ended here or here, but either way, at some point, let's just call it down here, because I did look at this previously and I did see like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So therefore, what I'm seeing here is an A, right? And then I'm seeing a B wave, okay? So if you look at my labeling, the green means A, the orange means B, and then we saw this move here, which is a C wave, okay? And then we saw this move here, which is a D wave. And then finally we saw this move here, it was an E wave, okay? Now this is why I put that idea out before, saying that basically we're going to see higher prices from here, and that the stop would be at this point, because once you make support, right, if you break that support, well, that invalidates the whole idea. So therefore, this particular view would be invalidated. But whilst it hasn't been invalidated, we can only assume that that's what's happening. So the break of this D wave was the confirmation that this was moving higher. So I did put my idea out when it was above this line. Okay. Now I do use the magenta line to signify this particular move. And the reason why you're seeing another magenta line here, once again, let's go back to the 4-hour chart, is because that is a previous D wave of the larger pattern, right? So we are basically using all the waves to confirm that we're going higher, right? So that's why I've made it basically, I'll make this one a little bit less, I've sort of made it more transparent, about 50%. So it's sort of just in the background. But if you look closely at the ones that I'm currently focused on, they are at full brightness, just so you can understand that that's what I'm focusing on right now. Now, this particular move here, I believe, is wave 1. Now, you did have a wave 1 with a sideways wave 2. Sorry, is that? Yeah, okay. So it's not always easy to see these waves, but this is wave 1 in my opinion. Okay, so this was the first wave. Right, okay, so that's minor wave 1. So here we had first wave 1 and then wave 2. Okay, so what we're looking at now is wave 1 of wave 3 that's coming in the future, right? So the first wave is here, and then we have wave A. So it's a zigzag. You can see it right there. It's a zigzag. Right, and then we have another 3-wave move here, which is a B wave. So I'm just going to give it the right color. And then we had a C wave. Okay, so it probably threw people off a little bit. And then we had a D wave. Right, so we're just seeing the same thing repeating again. Now, can you guess what we're seeing now? Well, you guessed it, it's an E wave. Right now, whether or not that's finished yet, we might see a little bit of a move down at the open, but it cannot go below the red line, right? Because the E wave is very important. It actually signifies that we have created new support. Okay, so in order for us to consider this a valid count moving forward, we have to see the E wave not go below that red line. So right now, it would appear to me that at the open, it might either do one of two things. One could be open straight up, or two, it could go down a little bit, maybe even gap down a little bit, but then come back up again. Right, so we're currently in an uptrend, so I don't imagine that it's going to break through that red line. Right, and that red line is at 31,222. Okay, so once that E wave completes, that would mean that we have seen the end of wave 2 of wave 3. Okay, so that's my explanation on what's going on here. And why is this pattern doing this? Why is it behaving in this particular way? Well, that's an interesting question, right? Now, if we go back to the beginning of the whole move in March, right? Well, let's just have a little bit of a zoom into this, right? And let's have a quick look here. You can see that here that we had this quick move up and down, right? Now, if you look closely, you can see this little candle down here that would be like, I don't know, a harami pattern, I suppose. You know, the harami pattern is basically a candle that has a small body against a large bearish candle. You couldn't call it necessarily like what's that word? Sorry, I can't remember. Anyway, so what I think happened down here was a small wave 1 followed by an expanded wave 2, right? And then we saw wave 3, 4, 5. So in my opinion, perhaps the same thing happened at this point. I could be wrong, but either way, it doesn't really matter because this move happened and it wasn't that large of a move, but it was a wave A. Okay. So similarly, what we are seeing now, right? If we go back, hang on, let me just move this up. Right, if we just get rid of this for a second, we can see down here we had a pretty small move, right? You probably can't see it down there. It's very small, but if you move here closely, it's also very small. And if you kind of zoom in right now, you can see that there was a hammer pattern, right, on the 4-hour. So what I'm trying to say is that this particular move probably doesn't have a lot of strength behind it. So I've noticed with patterns, certain patterns, when they don't have a lot of strength behind it, it's mainly the correction that produces the breakout rather than the actual impulsive wave 1 causing the breakout, right? So if it was the wave 1 that was this particular move here, obviously we'd have to see the 5 waves up. But in this particular case, I do not see it. And one could maybe assume that this is a very strong move and we're going to see a lot higher prices in the future. But given that I don't see that, all I can see right now is that we're consolidating at the highs in the way that I explained earlier, and then we're going to see a move to the upside. Okay. Now, given that we have the slope that we have in place right now, I'm assuming that it's going to basically interact with the channel, the midpoint, and also, you know, the whole channel in general. I do believe that we're going to see some kind of, you know, some kind of movement that is like this, right? I'm not saying that that's exactly what it's going to look like, but I don't believe there's that there's a lot of strength in this market. So I don't think it's just going to do something like this, right? I just don't think it's going to happen. Okay, if it does, fine, it'll surprise me. It might break above and then eventually just interact with that channel again and break down, whatever it is, right? You know, let's just see what happens. I'm just trying to give you my perspective. So that's what I think is going to happen according to AriasWave. That's my view. So let's just go back to the hourly for a moment, just so you can see that again. Now, AriasWave is very particular when it comes to these moves, right? So although I may get it wrong sometimes, which nobody's perfect. I'm not a financial advisor. It's best effort, but it's the small risk and reward that it can afford you that can allow you to have some good profits when it does work out. Okay, but if you learn it yourself, maybe you're a better interpreter of the waves than I am. And you know what? Some of my students have already proven that to me. So, so how else could you look at this move? Now, just say, for example, right? If you like patterns, and you know what, when you look at the market through AriasWave, right, you will definitely notice that the AriasWave interacts with the market and creates. You can observe the markets using the common patterns, in technical analysis. So, for example, you can say this is like a head and shoulders, right? You can say that this is a head and shoulders right here. Okay. So when this pattern happens, right, if it's a failed head and shoulders, that is bullish, right? So once again, we're using the common patterns in conjunction with AriasWave. So you can say basically, well, if this doesn't make a new low and break through what is called the neckline using the head and shoulders pattern, then most likely this is bullish, right? But if we do see a break of the neckline, then it's bearish, right? However, I would not use that so much in general, just because of it's a small pattern, and using head and shoulders pattern, then what would be the target for your take profit would be the the height of the head portion, and then to the downside from the neckline. It's not much of a profit, really. To me, I just use this more of a guide. It's like what are other people looking at? What are other people seeing? So in this case, I can just say, look, if it doesn't work out, then it's bullish. If it does go down, then it could be something else, right? I'm not trying to say that my way is the right way and it's the best way. I'm just trying to give you perspective. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It's up to you. So I've given you what I think is the best possible explanation for what's going on right now. I will link my latest video below, which talks about the bigger picture and how all these markets are interacting with each other right now at this present moment in the view of AriasWave. And I hope you check it out and leave your comments and let me know what you think. If you agree, you don't agree, that's fine. Hopefully you found this video interesting and enjoyable and informative. Thank you for watching.